This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by FreshBooks, the ridiculously easy-to-use cloud accounting software used by over 10 million small business owners. Try it free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/knowhow. And by iFixit, the free online repair manual for everything. Before you start your next build or fix, head over to ifixit.com and check out their high-quality parts, tools, and guides. For $5 off your purchase of $10 or more, go to ifixit.com/twit and enter the code KNOWHOW at checkout. Today on Know-How,
Networking 102, TAPS.
welcome to Know-How. It's a Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I am Father Robert Ballasare.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And for the next however many minutes it takes, we're going to be like the eternal knowledge doge who digs holes into your brain and plants the wisdom.
Little knowledge bones in there, and then comes back and gets them later.
Forgets where he buried them, and then you just get a bunch of knowledge buried all around the yard.
You never know when those knowledge bones are going to come in handy, though.
Right,
Even if you don't necessarily know where they are.
You know, we really got to stop doing these because most of the analogies do not work.
No, but I'm always curious to see where you go with it. So.
I don't even know where I'm going with it.
Still, at this point.
Yeah, not really. Well, folks, we are continuing our Networking 102 series. Actually, we're finishing up our 102 series. Remember, we had to change the little schedule a little bit because WannaCry happened in the middle of this, and we did want to cover that.
Yeah.
But today we wanted to give you something that kind of reinforces what we've been telling you throughout the Networking 102 series. We've told you how to do your on-premise wiring.
Yes.
We've shown you a little bit about how something that's bad will look on your network. We've also shown you the 3 dumb router setup, and now we want to give you something that I personally use all the time to ensure that my networking is working properly, and that is TAPS.
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 Which we've talked about before.
We have
used Wireshark to keep track of data. Like when you were doing the WannaCry attack stuff, that's how we were able to see that the infected machine was broadcasting to the rest of the network.
This is important because TAPS are the best way for us to get visibility into a network. The problem with just trusting with your diagnostic tools, might say on a client, is that if the client is infected, if the client has malware, it may not be giving you the right information.
You don't trust anything, do you,
You're
Padre?
not supposed to trust anything. You just assume that things are broken. But what TAPs do, especially if you've got something like this, a mobile tap, a Shark tap, that will allow you to just put it in line on any device, is you can immediately find out exactly what's going on the wire. There's absolutely no way to fake network traffic. So in other words, even if you have like malware that's VM aware, so it knows when it's running in VM, and therefore it doesn't do what it wants to do because it doesn't want you to figure it out. It's very smart. It does have no way of figuring out that you're running a tap.
Yeah, because that's a physical transition that
it's a bump in the line.
No, indicator otherwise.
Precisely. And so if you can do that, if you have the ability to jump into the middle, basically run a man-in-the-middle attack between any 2 devices on the network, you have an incredibly powerful investigative tool to figure out what's happening whenever something's not looking right on your network.
Now, running a tap for diagnostic reasons, would that slow down your network? Is this something that you wouldn't want to have attached all the time?
No, not normally. Now, we will talk about a way of doing this that actually will slow down the network just a tiny bit. But all the taps that I have on the table right now, from these NetOptics taps, including these 2 copper taps and this fiber tap, as well as this Shark tap, these all work at gig.
Okay.
So, and actually, not this one, but all of these 3, these will fail close. So in other words, if something breaks, the network stays up.
What do you mean breaks?
So let's say something in here gets busted.
Like so physically melts.
Yeah, it physically melts. All of these are designed just to fail, what's called failed closed. So they won't break the network that they're tapping.
Okay.
This one, if it loses power, the network breaks. So it's slightly different design. But I mean, these others, the NetOptics, they are enterprise grade. So you can't have it fail.
It's a fail safe, a redundancy in case something happens. Your network will still work. You just won't get any of the tap information that you
precisely.
Okay.
Let's take a look at how this actually is going to work, because people say taps all the time, and we'll say things like mirror ports or span ports. Let's talk specifically about tapping. How do I put a device in between two other devices and get it to listen in on the traffic without actually being involved in the traffic? Because that's what we need. You can't just put another device on the network and listen, because the very fact that it's on the network affects the network.
Right.
It's like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. The act of observing will change what you're observing.
Absolutely.
Okay. But there is an interesting little bit about running Ethernet or even fiber that we can take advantage of. Now, here in this demonstration, I've got two clients. So I've got client A and client B.
Is that what those are? What? I'm just guessing.
Why do you always have to be a hater, Brian?
I thought it was a cassette tape.
Just gotta hate.
I thought this was going to be a mixtape or something that you drew.
Okay, all right. So I got client A, I have client B. The reason why these two lines are different colors is because, and it changes when I start dealing with PoE and gigabit and 10 gigabit Ethernet, but at its purest, I need two wires for each direction. So sending and receiving.
Right.
Right? Okay, so these are twisted together, but I need two to send and two to receive. And let's say that the orange ones are sending and the blue ones are receiving. But
Can
remember,
you draw little arrows pointing in the direction that information is traveling?
Just for you, Brian, I'm going to do that.
I want to know which way the Tron bikes are moving at the moment.
But remember, it's not. This is not the send pair and this is the receive pair, because they flip.
Right.
So on this side it's send receive. On that side it's receive send.
You've just blown my mind.
No, because for this to receive, this has to be sending,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And for this to be sending here, that has to be receiving.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. So this is the direction of the flow of information.
Got it.
What I can do, however, is I can take, let's say, a third client. This won't actually be on the network. It will be listening to the network. And the way that it's listening to the network is it might have, I'm gonna put in what's called an aggregated tap. And let me explain what that means. So what I'm going to be doing,
tap.
an aggregated tap,
okay.
and not an alligator tap. That's different. You don't want that.
No.
What this will do is this will take this. So it takes those two and these two.
Look at you getting all nifty with your colors.
Oh my! I'm getting so colorific, and each of these will be tied to the receive side.
Okay.
So this will only be receiving. This is not sending anything else.
No.
That tap will aggregate all the traffic that's being either sent or received into just receive on that one port.
Okay,
And
and
that,
it just doesn't have to pass the data back through or anything?
Nope. In fact, you don't want that, because again, you don't want it affecting the network.
That would slow things down.
That's what this does. So this is an aggregated tap. This will take all the traffic either being sent or received, and it will push it to just the sending pair on this. So the computer that's receiving from this tap will receive the data in both directions.
Okay.
But that's not the only kind of tap we have. So this is also an aggregating tap. So actually, if you go to the side view here, this is sort of a higher end. This is an enterprise class. But the reason why we call it an aggregator is because it will take everything from A and B, both sides, and push it over to one. So we want that. It's a complete conversation. However, there's also this. So this is a non-aggregated tap, also known as a zero delay tap, because it doesn't have to do any aggregation. I go network A and B, and then I can either monitor the send or monitor the receive.
Okay.
So I can choose which side of the conversation to listen to. Both of these are important because most of the time I'm going to want aggregation. Aggregation shows me a complete picture of what's happening on the network.
Right.
Sometimes, however, I only want to see traffic in one direction.
Right, coming in or
going out.
Yeah.
Right. And also the other problem with an aggregator tap is, remember, this is a 1 gig Ethernet aggregator, right? Which means I can only have half a gig going in each direction before the aggregated port is overloaded.
Okay, hits its maximum bandwidth.
It hits its maximum, right. Versus this. So if I use this non-aggregated tap, I can put two adapters in my listening machine, and I can actually capture separately the send and the receive.
Okay, so if you were to place these taps into your network, where would you put them? Like, would I put this between the router and the modem?
Depends on what you want to listen to.
Yeah.
So, for example, in my network, I always have an aggregating tap between my minimum point of entry, that's my router, and the network I'm connected to, that's Comcast.
Okay.
So between the Comcast router and my router, I have a tap.
Okay.
And all that does is it lets me know everything flowing into and out of my network. That's everything. That's every computer that's talking to the internet has to go through that tap.
So that's a lot then.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But I'm okay with an aggregation tap there because I know I'm never going to hit a gig. I don't have gig speeds.
Right.
So that's not going to happen. I also have aggregation taps inside of my network going to things like my NAS box and like the printers and the Internet of Things, just to keep an eye on things. To the servers, however, I use non-aggregated taps because I do want to capture everything, not just half of the gig, because they're loaded down. That's all the traffic.
Right.
So yeah, you choose where you want to tap based on what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for the top talker? Are you looking for the most noisy client on the network? If so, you're going to want to tap between the router and the switch because that will give you all the stats about what's talking to what.
Right.
The tap I have running between my router and the Comcast router, that only shows me what traffic is going in and out of the network.
It could be any machine on your network.
Could be any of the machines.
So if you were concerned about a specific machine, like a PC or something, you would hook it up between that machine and then to your switch or router.
Precisely. Like, for example, I have a couple of these. And one of the things that I always do, anytime I receive a new phone, I have both a wireless AP and a, what do they call those, a microcell. So it's... It uses Wi-Fi to connect to my carrier, but then my cell phone connects to it over its cellular radio rather than Wi-Fi.
Okay.
All of that traffic runs through a tap. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to check to see if the phone is calling home.
Okay.
That's how you discover that stuff. It's
that was going to be my next question is, like, we're talking about mostly hardwired solutions right now, but most of the devices I have are Wi-Fi. So you would have a different receiver, a Wi-Fi receiver, then that you would plug the tap in between, and then that would go to the router.
This side of the tap goes to my network. This side of the tap goes to the AP.
Yeah.
All my devices connect to the AP. All that traffic will pass through the tap.
Okay.
Yeah, as well as the cellular repeater. It passes through the network. Therefore, it's really a dumb device. It's kind of cool, but it's a dumb device. If traffic passes through it, I can see it.
That's all you want.
It's really
you don't want it to hinder anything. You just want to be able to observe.
Right.
Okay.
Now here's another example of it. So we've been playing with copper a lot. This is actually a fiber tap. So this is a Net Optics, a 1 gig flex tap. These used to be really expensive.
I was going to say it looks expensive.
I mean, it's all plastic, but when we first had them, they were like $1,000 a pop. I think you can probably get them on sale now for like $500 a pop.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're less expensive. All it is, as you can see, just like for copper, I need a pair for every send or a receive, right?
Right.
So the blues are my standard network. So that's going from point A to point B. The green
is the tap.
That's the tap. And all it did is it takes that fiber, and you see these two barrel connectors?
You just split it? Like
it slightly bends that fiber just a little bit. In fact, this tells me the rating. So this is a 70-30 split. If you look at the 70-30 split, that means that 70% of the light continues on to its proper destination. 30% of it gets siphoned off for the tap.
Okay, so you will notice a hit then on your traffic speed?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Because this is designed for networks that you can run down to 20% of the light.
Oh, and you'll still have
full speed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's just how much is the margin of error. They have taps with different splits, so I can get a 70-30, I can get an 80-20, I can get a 50-50, although those are really rare because they totally mess up the network.
Yeah.
It all depends on how far you're going to be going and what kind of device is actually going to be listening in.
Okay. Well, I can't imagine too many people would buy that for their home network unless there's crazy people running fiber in their home, which I would if I could. But.
Yeah, and let's talk about this really quick. Actually, Alex, if you go to that first link there, this is the one that we've been playing with for a while. This is the Shark Tap Gigabit Ethernet Sniffer. It's a little pricey. You're talking about $180, but it's a very well-made device. It seriously, I love this thing. It does PoE pass-through, it does 10, 100, 1000. It's a 350 milliamp draw at 5 volts, which means it's USB powered. Auto MDX, so it will automatically do the crossovers even if you didn't do it properly.
Yeah.
And again, it's an aggregating tap, so it will show you both sides of the conversation.
I like that it's PoE, because then you could hook that up to like
PoE pass-through.
Pass-through, right.
PoE pass-through. So it just allows PoE to go through. So if I have a PoE device, this isn't PoE powered.
Right. But no, yeah, the point I was making is that you could hook that into like a security camera or something like that, and it would still get power, and you could monitor that device in case you're wondering, is this a device that was vulnerable to an exploit and then now is sending traffic back that I didn't intend it to?
Yeah. We originally covered this in episode 63 of Know How, so you're going to want to go way back if you want to see our initial view. I would suggest that if they just want to play around, they get something a little bit different. Don't go with a gig tap, because gig taps are always going to be a bit more expensive. Get a 10-100 tap. They're actually really cheap. In fact, I'm going to show you in a future episode how to make one. It doesn't take that long. It's not actually a full episode. We'll do it in Networking 103. But essentially, you use this. You take 2 RJ45 jacks, just like we were playing with when we were doing
Which are super easy to make yourself, and I never mess up when we make them. I get it perfect every time. I never get it right.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that. No, sure. No, but all we have to do is we could actually take 2 of those jacks or 2 of those ends, and then splice off the 2 send and receive pairs and make a non-aggregating tap.
You make it sound so easy.
It's about $1.50 to make one of these things.
But you have to have a little bit of skill.
A little bit of knowledge, not really skill. I mean, it's physics, it's electronics.
Yeah.
Now you could also buy. We have got a link there for the hack shop if you want to throw some joy towards Darren and Stubbs.
Oh, Hack 5, yeah.
This is $40. This is actually the same design that I'm going to show you how to make. They add a resistor in there, so it automatically drops down to 100. Because if you're going to do it this way, which is called a passive tap, you can only operate at 100. You can't operate at a gig, which is why these are more expensive.
Right, and you can't do PoE on that either, right?
No. Okay, so once you've got the tap, you need a device that is capable of receiving the stream. Some people have done some fantastic projects with Raspberry Pis that all they do is they act as little gobble machines. You put the tap into there and they just record everything.
Right, so how much data will that consume?
Depends. But I mean, if you're tapping and you're recording, it means everything.
So that could be a lot.
It could be a ton of data.
I guess, could you parse it down to look for specific things?
You can, but I mean, at some point, you're storing the packets. If you're storing the packets, you're still taking up that space.
So what do you do then?
I have a huge storage array.
Okay.
And my storage array, as it starts to fill, it will look at the oldest capture files and we'll start dumping them.
So you say huge. How huge are we talking about? 3 petabytes? Not I thought you said petabyte. I thought you mean terabytes.
No, petabytes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Big.
That is big.
It's
but
big.
you're passing a lot of traffic that you're
also because this was something that we used at Interop, and the vendor said, yeah, you can have it. I'm like, oh,
cool.
Okay.
So this the system that you're using right now is something that would be used in like a big
enterprise.
Big enterprise setup. Okay.
Not gonna have one of these at home.
No.
I mean, normally.
But you could build your own.
Yeah. It's also really good as a space heater, by the way.
Do you keep it next to your bed in the wintertime? Yeah.
So get a tapping device. More likely than not, it's going to be something like this. So I have this, just an old Windows 7 laptop. It's been set up with Wireshark. That's my tapping device.
Okay.
Now, once you've got this, and you've got the device, and you've got Wireshark, now you have to choose where you're going to place your tap. And this is something that you asked about. What do I want to tap? It depends. Are you looking just for top talkers? Are you looking to find a specific vulnerability? Are you looking to measure what a new computer is trying to do on your network?
Yeah.
That's going to determine where you place every tap. Now, in a more advanced network, we've got taps everywhere. In fact, my switch acts as a tap. I have what's called a mirror port or a span port that basically it taps itself and pushes it out to that 3 petabyte array.
Oh, okay, okay. I think what I would want to do is have a guest network that I tap. I want to know everything that people are doing on my internet.
It's more, it was way more exciting way back when. I mean, just 10 years ago, encryption was unheard of. In fact, okay.
So you could see everything. Yeah.
I had an open wireless network when I was working at Most Holy Trinity Church in San Jose. But it was tapped. It was my network. I get to tap it. And what I found there was people who kept connecting to that open Wi-Fi. And back then, AOL Instant Messenger was crazy popular.
Oh, so you could read all the messages.
Completely unencrypted. So you could read them both directions. So and the thing is, it used a specific protocol. And we're going to show you this later on. You could type in a filter into Wireshark and it will just show you the AOL Instant Messages. It was
simpler times.
Simpler times, and totally not illegal because they were accessing my network.
And that's why you don't join just random Wi-Fi networks.
Yeah, that's just silly. All right, so what we want to do though is we want to actually step back. I'm going to take you to something that I did for This Week in Enterprise Tech almost 10 years ago. It's still usable to show you how you could take one of these and use it inside your network. So without further ado, first, let's go ahead and take a moment for these messages. I know there are those of you with your own businesses. You're trying to grow something that's your passion into something that can be your livelihood. Now, there are a lot of things you should worry about. You should worry about your technology. You should make sure that your data is secure. You should make sure that you've got a business plan that will last you into the future. But one thing you shouldn't have to worry about is getting paid. I know it is a pain. I had to deal with it myself when I was running my own business. Getting paid is always one of these strange things. After the job is done, you're not done. You still have to make sure that you keep on that client. Make sure you send them invoices and the second invoice and the third invoice. Remind them that payment is due. Wouldn't it be nice if that could all be automated? Well, folks, it can if you use FreshBooks. Now, FreshBooks is the best way to process billing. It takes away the painful and time-consuming things that you have to do in order to run a business. You can stop chasing your clients. You can save time and know exactly where your business stands with FreshBooks. FreshBooks' all-new version of their cloud accounting software will make running your business easy, fast, and secure. They've got a newly improved platform that was developed by a small team of 10 using design thinking and lean UX processes. The FreshBooks dashboard gives you quick access to your spending, outstanding balances, total profit, and accounting reports like sales tax summary and profit and loss. In other words, it gives you an at-a-glance screen to tell you how your business is doing. Now, FreshBooks has made it fast and easy to create and send professional-looking invoices. No more Excel spreadsheets with a semi-custom logo at the top. These look like professional invoices because they are professional invoices. With FreshBook Payments, your customers can pay straight from their invoice, and invoicing clients online will help you get paid an average of 11 days faster. You can see what invoices have been sent, viewed, and paid, as well as outstanding invoice totals. And you can also brand and set recurring invoices, send automatic payment reminders, or set automatic late fees. Now, as a business owner, you know that your time is your most valuable asset. You can easily bill for time by client and by specific projects. You can just press play to track your time to the minute, and you can quickly identify gaps with an all-new timeline. Now, when it comes time to create an invoice, you'll know what you did and when you did it. You can stay connected to your clients and keep tabs on your business no matter where you are with the FreshBooks app. This allows you to track expenses by snapping a photo of your receipt or connecting your bank account and credit card to automatically import expenses all day so that you can get rid of that shoebox. You can get rid of that one day a week where you sit down and enter all your expenses into whatever accounting program you're using. With FreshBooks, it's all automatic. Now, FreshBooks also integrates with some of the apps that you already use and some that you'll be glad that you found, like Stripe, Shopify, Gusto, Acuity Scheduling, and more. And FreshBooks is adding new features and improvements to their platform on a weekly basis. It's no wonder why they were included in Forbes' Small Giants list for 2017. So here's what we want you to do. If you are running your own business, if you're looking to grow it, if you want to have your own accountant without actually having your own accountant, you owe it to yourself to try FreshBooks. Try it for free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/knowhow. That's freshbooks.com/knowhow, and enter the code knowhow in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Again, freshbooks.com/knowhow, and enter knowhow in the How Did You Hear About Us section. And we thank FreshBooks for their support of this episode of know-how. Okay, Brian, let's go ahead and take a trip back on the nostalgia train. Ooh, and
a decade ago?
A decade ago.
And it's still relevant.
It's still, well, okay, maybe not a decade ago. A decade in my time, it's dog years.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that, I don't know. But this is how you use taps. I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the Digital Jesuit, host of Twiet, This Week in Enterprise Tech on the Twit Network. And this is another edition of the Data Closet. Now, a while back, we had a Stuff My IT Guy Says that we talked about taps, these devices that allow us to capture traffic or tap traffic from one part of the network to another. Phenomenally useful tools that are absolutely necessary in the kit of any enterprise professional. But some people asked exactly what they could do with it. I mean, the theory is nice, but they wanted to see nuts and bolts. How do they make a tap work for them? So we're here at the Hot Stage Warehouse for Interop, building one of the world's most advanced temporary networks, and I thought we'd have a chat with a net optics engineer, Mr. Aaron Engerbretson. Aaron, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you know a little bit about taps.
Yep.
You've been doing this for years and years and years. Tell me, what is useful about a tap?
Well, a tap, it basically becomes the wire. So you are looking at the packets as they go across the wire.
Right. So it really is a wiretap. That's
right.
That's where the name comes from. Now, one of the things that we mentioned in the Stuff My IT Guy Says episode is that a network tap, a true network tap, is the only way to get, well, uncorrupted information. I mean,
right.
if you have an inline device, it could fail. If you have a network span, it could get overloaded. But with a network tap, it's pure. It doesn't decrease the TTL of a packet. It just passes through and gives you a copy of whatever it is you wanted a copy of.
That's right.
Show me what a practical application of a tap would be.
All right, so what we have here set up is we have a VoIP telephone and our network. So we have tapped in between the phone and the network. So now we're going to see all the packets from the voice traffic go through the tap. So I'll go ahead and start my Wireshark trace. So now we'll see the packets as they go across the wire.
And now I have a number to dial.
All right.
So go ahead.
I'll go ahead and dial my cell phone. All right.
And I'm starting to see the packets flow here.
That's right. As you can see the RTP, that's the real-time protocol.
And now I'm talking, and you should be able to hear me. However, if my partner speaks,
You will not hear what I say.
and the reason why you can't hear what he's saying on this stream is because we're using a non-aggregating port. So if you look down at the switch right now, we've got our inbound network, we've got the phone, and we've got the tap only plugged in on the B side. That's the outbound side. So when Aaron speaks,
You won't hear it on the wire trace.
And that's how that works. Now, this is a phenomenally useful tool because I get to see the traffic. I get to see what's going on, but that's not the only thing that Wireshark can do.
That's right. We see all the packets as it goes across the wire. So actually, let's go ahead and stop this trace. And we'll come to telephony within here, and we'll look for voice calls. Anything that's gone across the wire. So here it found a call. I'm going to go ahead and select that call. You can see where the call originated from, the SIP ID, and then who we were calling. I can actually play this within Wireshark.
Okay. Now, one of the really cool things about this is that it's not just a violation of civil liberties, but it's a really useful tool if you're trying to troubleshoot voice packet problems across the network. If you've got a VoIP system and you can't figure out why it keeps dropping packets or why it sounds horrible, capture a session and you can actually see what the packets are doing at the wire. It gives you a much better idea of what's going on your network.
Yeah, we get a lot of statistics from those packets themselves. Also, you can also hear the call yourself and see if you hear that same jitter or that noise on the wire.
Now, this is not a tool limited just to VoIP. You've actually got a net optics tool that shows what's going on at Interop. Can we take a look at that?
Absolutely. We're collecting all the packets here at Interop. And so from those packets, I can see who are the top talkers on the network, who's using my bandwidth. What are they doing? What are they downloading? Are they conversations or calls? Anything. Illegal BitTorrents. You can see who IP addresses, how they're talking to each other, how much traffic is going across on these communications, volume utilization, so you can see over time if you need more and more bandwidth. This will tell you, it'll even generate you a report that you can then hand to your manager and say, look, we're running out of space here, so give me another circuit.
What I like about this is, well, for a lot of networks, it's sort of a black box. You know, you've got externals, you've got clients, but it either works or it doesn't.
Right.
And it's hard to quantify what you need. And do I need to expand my internal links? Do I need bigger pipes to the internet? Do I need to segment my network so I have more zones so I can partition off heavy traffic use? If I'm using taps, I can actually show my manager using your screen or using Wireshark and say, look, I'm getting an abundance of traffic here, here, and here. This is where we need to add capacity. It's an extraordinarily useful network tool, and it's really fundamental.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, if they want to find out more about taps, of course, the best place for them to go is to find someone like you. Find an engineer, find someone who does this for a living, and they'll tell you all about taps. Or they could go to a conference. And I know I beat on this drum a lot, but find us. We'll both be at Interop. Go to the knock on the window, and ask us about what NetOptics can do for your network. And if you want some free material, I believe NetOptics has a few resources on their website.
Definitely. You could go to www.netoptics.com. We have case studies and white papers you can read up on also.
Fantastic. Aaron, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you understand why you need to have taps in your network. I'm Father Robert Balacer, and until next time, this is the Data Closet. I think that music might have been from the 60s, actually.
You know, the music didn't do it for me, but the graphic slowly coming to the forefront at the intro.
Super high-end, man.
That's come back around. Yeah, that's like retro now. I loved it.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing about running taps in a network is once you start using them, it's no longer an option. It becomes something you design into the network. It's part of the cost of a network because what good is it to set up a really, really high-end network that's set up exactly the way you want it if you can't actually figure out what's going on?
Yeah, because what happens is you start running into an issue where somebody's taking up all the bandwidth and you have no way to know or diagnose that problem, and that totally ruins the efficiency of your network. But also, I thought it was pretty fascinating to see how the aggregation worked too, where like, okay, that makes sense. It's sending, that's why
Sending
I can hear
or receiving,
you.
not both sides.
Not both sides, yeah.
Now, if I had been running an aggregating tap at that point, it would have been more difficult for me just to isolate the packet stream for that one side. But what I could have done is I could have captured the entire thing, and then I could have played it back. I could have split it at the end, and then played both sides of the call, and then combined them.
Okay, yeah. And the software that they're using looked super sophisticated. I liked it.
It is, but here's the fun part. I can get pretty much as detailed reports from Wireshark, which is free.
But it won't look as pretty. You won't have the pie charts
No.
and the graphs.
No. I mean, you can get a pie chart in Wireshark.
Oh, okay.
It's just not as easy.
I need to play with it some more.
Now, when we come back, what we're going to do is we're actually going to set one up. We're going to use this Shark tap, the aggregating tap, along with this laptop to show you how you actually would set one of these up, because we want you to walk away knowing that this is simple. This is really simple. This is not something that should be super complicated. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take a moment for these messages. Now, as makers and DIYers, Brian and I are always big fans of any company that can help us to take apart the gear that we want to play with and put it back together properly. Well, folks, if you're looking for the source for knowledge, for parts, for tools, there's only one place trusted by know-how, and that's iFixit. iFixit is the #1 spot for you to go anytime you have a project. If you're familiar with iFixit, you know that they really like to take stuff apart, and they teach people about how they're going to fix their things. They're constantly posting teardowns and repair videos for popular devices like the Galaxy S8, the iPhones, and the Switch. They needed better tools to get the job done than what was available on the market, so they did what any good maker would do. They created them. The ProTech Toolkit is fully loaded with everything you need for your next fix or DIY project. They've just dropped the price to $59.95, which means it's even more affordable than before. Don't let the sleek design fool you, folks. This toolkit's got both beauty and brawn, with high-end steel bits and tools tough enough to handle any repair or mod that you throw at them. The tool roll makes it compact and easy to store, and it includes a 64-bit driver kit, which has all the bits you need for just about any DIY electronics repair. It also has a protective case that keeps your bits organized. You open it up, you flip it over, and the bits won't even fall out. The bits are being held in place by a magnetic mat that doubles as the perfect spot to hold tiny components and screws. If you've ever done one of these projects where you have to remove a lot of tiny screws from the case, well, putting them into a tray is nice until you knock the tray over. You bump them and you move them out of position. With that magnetic mat, you can keep them exactly where you need them to be so you can put them back in the right order. It also includes a swivel top magnetic precision driver and a flex extension, which is also magnetic, to reach those hard-to-reach screws in those hard-to-reach places. They give you a wide variety of plastic opening tools, spudders and picks to safely poke and pry with without destroying cases, as well as a suction cup with a new handle to remove display assemblies from things like tablets and phones. iFixit's own rubber-handed Jimmy Pry tool is in there as well to help you open it up, as well as a set of metal spudders for those jobs that need just a little extra torque. They also give you a pair of ESD-safe tweezers and an ESD safety strap so you don't destroy your job with a static shock. And the best part, iFixit tools are backed by iFixit's lifetime warranty. This is no joke. I destroyed a bit. It was entirely my fault. I was at fault. I used it to pry and I just ripped it apart. Well, I contacted iFixit and they just sent me a brand new one. No questions asked. That's how much they stand behind their products, because they understand that you need to get a job done. You don't need to be worrying about your RMA status. You don't need to buy something at iFixit to get their free repair resources. Those are provided completely free. You can check out over 25,000 free repair guides over at iFixit.com. Folks, if you want to tackle your next hack, fix, or build, you're going to want to do it with the ProTech Toolkit. And we've got a code that will give you $5 off. Just head over to iFixit.com/twit and use the code KNOWHOW at checkout to save $5 on your purchase of $10 or more. Again, that's iFixit.com/twit and the code KNOWHOW at checkout. And we thank iFixit for the support of KnowHow. All right, Brian, let's go ahead and get to the action here.
Yeah.
Again, we have all the tools, all the parts that we called out at the start of the episode.
We've done all the hardware. Now
Yep.
it's time to implement some software.
Precisely. So we've got our tap, which is our Shark tap, our aggregating tap.
Right.
We've got the laptop, which is also our tapping device. So this is running Wireshark, which will allow us to listen in on the network. And what I'm going to do is I've got a couple of cables here that are color coded. So this orange one, this is the one I'm going to use for the tap. That's going to go into the bottom here.
Okay.
And if you look at the schematic, actually, if you look at the schematic here, it even tells you this is the network on either side, and it doesn't matter which side you plug in on which. But that tap down below, that's going to get both sides of the conversation.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my computer. So now that's connected to the tapping computer. What I need is some traffic.
Right.
So this one is just standard category 5 cable. I'm going to plug this in here. The cable that's connected to my computer is over here on this USB adapter. So I'm going to remove this, plug that cable in, and now I'm going to plug this in here, like so. So Alex, if you go to the overhead, to the side view actually, what this is now, this side goes to the network.
Right.
This side goes to my laptop. This side goes to the tapping computer.
Got
and you
it.
can tell it's active because the lights have turned on. Oh, and by the way, this is powered by a USB cable which is connected to one of my laptops.
Okay, and if it can't run without the power, huh?
Right, so this fails open. So if I lose power, this drops out. Those other taps, if I lose power,
Doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I won't be tapping anymore, but at least-
Right, but your network won't go down.
Right, so let me go ahead and get in here.
So you've disabled Wi-Fi on this laptop.
Right, so the only way that this can get connection to the internet is through this tap.
Okay.
Okay, so if you go to my computer over here, Alex, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up Wireshark, which went away. Hold on.
What is this, Windows 7?
I know, it is Windows 7 actually. And this is like mega unpatched Windows 7 too, so.
Well, this is the same laptop from that video, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it was never infected.
No,
This is just a tapping video.
old. But that goes to show you don't need something super sophisticated to do this.
Precisely. This is. In fact, I've got what were those? What do we call those before Chromebooks?
Oh,
before
netbooks?
I have a netbook that I've used as a tapping computer, just because it has a built-in Ethernet port. kind of drops a couple of packets, so I don't use it all the time. But yeah, this is fine. This is an i7. So Alex, if you go back, when you first start up Wireshark, it's going to ask you what interface should it start listening to.
Okay.
And on some of my computers, this will be a long list because there might be a Wi-Fi adapter, maybe 2 Ethernet adapters, and then some like weird virtual adapters that I've created. On this one, I kept it simple.
Is it drawing a graph too? Out there?
Oh yeah, it's just being happy. So this
is just showing that there's a network connected.
Precisely. And actually, let me set this so that it scrolls automatically because I want to keep up.
Because it looks cooler that way.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So what it's doing right now is this is the traffic that's running from my laptop. So I'm not touching it right now, and this is what's always happening in the background. You can see there's a couple of Dropbox packets. You can see that there's a bunch of check packets, so it's actually finding out if there's anything running on the network. Let me add a little extra traffic here. Let's go to twit.tv. There we go. And so when I go to twit.tv, now it's really scrolling.
So
now,
this is fairly normal, though. Like your computer will be going out to the internet just if you're in a browser, you have a few tabs open, right?
Precisely. And what you can do here is you'll start to see the traffic that's usual, that's regular, that's good. So for example, my computer will always be checking with OneDrive and Dropbox. Those are 2 programs that are always syncing.
Right.
And so it's a quick check. It's like, has anything changed? Nothing has changed. Has anything changed? Nothing has changed.
Is that what, does red mean bad though at this point?
No, those are different types of traffic. You also get retransmissions. And anything that's like this, anything that's a duplicate or a retransmission, what it means is you collided with another device on the network and you had to retransmit the packet.
Okay.
If that happens, that's always going to happen. But if it happens a lot, it means maybe you need to start looking at your network. Maybe it's a bit too congested. There's too much activity, too much traffic.
Too many things are talking all at the same time.
Precisely.
Okay.
But let's make it a little bit more useful. So what I can do is the filter is incredibly powerful because it allows me to look for very specific things like DNS. So if I do this, now all it's doing is these are just DNS requests. See how the protocol here is DNS?
Okay, yeah.
So these are just the times that the operating system asked a DNS server to resolve something for it. As you can tell, what's the #1 thing here?
Is the Google Docs.
It's Google Docs because this computer that I've tapped is holding the doc for know-how.
Right, which is checking constantly for any updates, like if someone else is typing in that doc, I'm assuming.
Yep. But this is also where I would start looking for things like, TCP. TCP 445, that's the Samba share. So I can actually, let's see if I don't think, it shouldn't find anything. Oh, it did. So at one point, TCP port 445, which is Samba, that computer, 52.84.243.205, went to 10.135.25.176 with some sort of traffic over the Samba protocol.
Interesting.
And I could search by TCP, I could search by UDP. There's an entire list of ways that I can use this filter to figure out what's going on in my network, including I could let this computer run, and then I could just bring up a screen for statistics and analysis. See, all of these allow me to isolate individual conversations, individual clients, so I can find the top talkers,
right,
to figure out exactly how many bytes, how many packets, who's transmitted what. So for example, right now, this is 59 megs going from that address to that address. If I have this running on my network between the router and the switch, I would know exactly who is using up all my bandwidth.
Right.
And again, free tool.
So utilizing this in your home network, would you want to let it run for like a day?
This runs continuously.
Just continuously.
It never stops.
And just keeps recording all of this data until you run out of hard drive space, or is it recursive? Oh, okay.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I love tapping, but it does take a lot of space, a lot of space. Because remember, if you're listening to both sides of the conversation, you are capturing everything.
Right.
So, for example, let's do something right now. Something that everyone at home is probably going to be doing, either running Netflix or Amazon, something or other. Let's start a stream here. Let's watch Sarah Silverman. Let me make sure my volume is off because she gets nasty. But
so we should see a lot of data passing over the network
now see it's exactly. So now it started the stream. I'm actually capturing that stream.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, means I can play it back later if I really wanted to.
Okay, so, all right, I'm thinking, so you're capturing the data. How would you then access this to replay it?
It's all inside this file. So this file contains all of those packets. And what I have mine set up so that it will close off the conversations every once in a while and start a new file.
Okay, but then you could convert it to an MP4 or something like that, or play back those?
It's probably not the easiest way to do it because I'd have to isolate that particular client, that particular stream.
Okay.
And then turn it
back. But it's
into
capturing everything. And if you're going with streaming standards, I think, what is it? It's like almost 6 gigs for an hour of streaming.
Well,
so
look, let's go back to the screen. You can tell where the Netflix conversation is taking place, right?
Yeah.
The one, it's 343 megabytes already.
Yeah, that's way more than anything else.
Precisely, but I mean, see, this is an incredibly useful screen because it tells you. You can see right now what's happening. In fact, you can set warnings and say, hey, anytime one client starts taking up X percentage of the bandwidth, warn me or shut it down, throttle it, do something.
Which is extremely useful if your ISP has bandwidth caps.
All right, wow, let's see, 711 megabytes already.
Wow, yeah, you're about to hit a gig.
That's
in less than like 3 minutes is what it seems like. Okay, so this is all really cool, but it's kind of, if you don't know how to parse down to things that are bad actors on your network, then this is all just like a lot of things
to look at. And that's why you have to get into this very slowly. This is not just a magical device. I put a tap in it, everything's safe.
Yeah. It's overwhelming seeing all this. It's like, I don't know if this is good or bad or what to look at specifically.
Right. But Cursed One has a very good point. You can also use those filters to remove traffic that you know is good. If I don't care about DNS traffic right now, remove that from the stream.
Right.
If I don't care about traffic going to Netflix, remove that from the stream. It allows you to remove this and this and this and this and this, and now you're only getting down to the traffic that you care about.
Okay.
It's going to take time, but
probably some Googling.
A lot of Googling. In fact, have a second screen, open it up with, go search for most useful Wireshark filters.
Okay.
And everyone has their own list of the things that they use all the time. I have my own list. But once you start poking around, you see this is actually really simple because the hardware is not expensive. The software is free. It's only the analytics that are going to cost you time.
Right.
And if you really don't like doing it this way, then you can buy something from like SolarWinds or from NetOptics. They all have software suites that do the analysis for you. They actually red flag traffic that shouldn't be there or talkers that are talking way too much. I only recommend Wireshark because it's raw. It shows you the most basic information about the traffic that's flowing on your network. And that forces you to learn. And learning, we like learning. Learning is good.
What was it at the beginning of the show? Dogbone analogy?
You want the dog bone buried deep into your brain.
Right. You'll come back and get that later.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And Wireshark's free, so that you can play around with it right away. Are there taps that have hard drives and software included, where you just plug it in, it records everything, and then download from that later?
Yes. Actually, you can configure the Wi-Fi Pineapple to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was curious about. I would love to play with one of those. I'll have to talk to Shannon about that.
Go talk to Snubs. Yeah, that should be one of your summer projects.
Yeah, especially if I go to DEF CON this year.
Once you start getting into this, it's addictive because this is all visibility into stuff that we previously had no visibility into.
It has already, just doing these network episodes, like I've already broken down my entire network and identified every device and set certain IPs for certain devices now. Like, it's kind of neat, this box that was a mystery before, like peeling back the layers and figuring out, like actually diving down and understanding it. It's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying these network episodes a lot.
Yeah. And actually, Neo in the chat room has a very, very good question. He says, why not just use a mirror port on your switch rather than buying a tap? And I actually did talk about that earlier in the episode. I do have that on my switch.
Yeah.
the issue with that, however, is anytime you're using a port on a switch, and it has to be a higher end switch because it has to have management.
Right.
Spanning and mirroring is not something you can do on like that Netgear that
Which is a nice switch.
that you borrowed.
Indefinitely have borrowed. You can have it back.
So you do have to have a higher end switch. So already that's going to erase these cost savings from not buying a tap.
Right.
But also all switches, once they start getting loaded up, the very first thing that they're going to drop is the mirror port. That they will not sacrifice legitimate traffic to keep up the mirror port.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and remember, let's say I have a 24 port switch, and I want to mirror traffic onto that one port. That's
too much.
Way too much traffic. And then the other nice thing I like about this is a tool I can keep in my bag. I can walk into any network.
Yeah.
No matter how expensive or inexpensive, it will work exactly the same way with the same tool set. That is invaluable because it means I can walk into your network, and even though you have no management switches, I can drop this in, tap a couple of places, and then say, oh, this is what's going on. So again, I'll use a mirror port anytime I can, but this travels with me, and that's what I want.
Well, now I want to build one.
Oh, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready for another Cat 5 challenge, putting my own wire together.
Well, how about make a cable that doesn't do that with the wires first, and then I can teach you how to do a tap.
My cabling's bad, and I feel bad.
See, that,
I'm glad we still have that on hand. Isn't that
I'm just
great?
looking at that going, you know what that is? If you turn that sideways, that is the master control program from Tron.
That's what I was going for. That's what I wanted it to be. You know what, though? You let me borrow all your network tools. You remember your little goodie bag of network stuff from that?
You keep that over the summer, and you just get awesome at doing it.
I'm going to practice. Practice makes perfect.
Yes, it does. In fact, you want to borrow the tap? I'm not going to be using it. Want to see what's going on in your network?
I would love to borrow your tap.
Keep it out of my house.
Alex is going to come by. Wait, didn't you scan Alex's network not too long ago?
Yes.
Like without him knowing it?
Maybe. I was just, Nmap. Remember? We did that episode. It was a lot of fun.
So let me see if I can figure out what you did. You went to Alex's house.
Yes.
You were plugged into his network.
You're a trusted friend who I gave my Wi-Fi password
And
to. And I
you
don't
used
usually
any of
bother
a
with guest
number of
accounts.
services to figure out what his external IP was. Then you went home and you ran Nmap against his IP from your house.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I did. And I found a port open.
Which one?
5001. It said something about it being like a sonic wall bridge port or something. Something to do with the modem.
5001.
Yeah, that's what
figure
I
that
found curious. Well, it was different from
Probably
mine.
Sonic Space Modem.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Well, I mean, as long as it
wasn't
wasn't
gonna-
like 445 or 21,
Well, even if I did, I wouldn't tell them.
you wouldn't tell me.
No, I would.
That's mean.
I don't. Well, it was just fun because I've been doing it to my own network, but I don't know. I don't know. It was kind of fun to see what owls look like.
That's just mean. That's super
I wasn't
mean.
gonna do anything nefarious. It was just wanted to see.
Do not trust. Okay, but folks, this is the end of the Networking 102 series. Next up, when I get back from Tartarship,
Tartarship.
when
is
I get
the way
back
it's
from
pronounced,
playing
yeah.
with fish sauce over the summer, we're going to be doing Networking 103. And in Networking 103, we're going into some of the topics that you've all wanted. You want VLANs? We're giving you a full
want
episode on
VLANs.
VLANs. You want containers and,
want
and
containers.
VMs? We're doing containers and VMs. You want to learn how to build your own tap for under $2? We're going to
Yes.
do that.
Cool. But I have to wait 2 months to get to
Well,
that?
I mean, I'm going to be in silence, man.
What a pain.
I know. Anyways, folks, we know that this was a lot of information. We want to make it very easy for you to find it, and you're going to find them at our show notes. Brian, where do we put those?
That's right. You'll find them at twit.tv/KH, and we'll have links to the tap that we talked about and all the other information that we discussed. But also, you can download the episode there, and if you haven't, you can subscribe.
Yes, and also don't forget that you can find us on the socials. We're all up in that biz.
That's what the kids are calling it,
Yeah.
the socials.
I'm totes on fleek.
Especially the Google Plus socials.
On
Fleek?
Fleek.
On Point Fleek.
That's
What's the
that's
new
a
thing the
right?
kids are doing?
I don't
The
know.
dab.
Is it
I don't
licking
know what that
eyeballs?
is.
I don't know. What is this?
What
Like,
is that? We don't know.
That's a thing?
We're too busy being nerds. We
Yes.
don't get it.
Anyways, you can find us at the socials on Google+. Just go to Google+, look for Know How. Very short approval process, so we can keep out all the spam accounts. But once you're in, you get access to over 11,000 Kitas. These are the cream of the crop of the Know How crowd, the people who like to build things, who like to know things. Go in, ask a question, answer a question, give us pictures and videos of your projects. Maybe it will end up right here on Know How.
That's right. But if you want to see what's coming up on a future episode or what kind of projects we're working on behind the scenes, like sometimes me and Padre do 3D printing build-offs.
Yeah.
Which I'm alluding to, but you can find out stuff about, we don't need to show that. We don't, mine is sad. My 3D print is sad.
Well, let's see. Which one of these is Padre's?
You have a nicer printer than I do. But
This one seems to be falling apart.
if you want to interact with us more directly and see what we're working on and what projects Padre makes me feel bad about, you can do that on Twitter. I am at cranky_hippo.
And you're going to find me at Padre SJ. And you're going to find the third member of our crew, the man who I think really he's the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun scanning his network.
Yeah. And we call him Alice. You're going to find Alice at the Red Queen's house at the Hive at twitter.com/ANELF3.
Off with his head.
That's right.
Excuse me, Padre, there's an X at the end, not an C.
Alex X?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right. Yeah, that works. Cool. Until next time, I'm Father Robert Baldesser.
I'm Brian Burnett.
And now that you know how,
Go tap it. Tappity tap, tap it. Network tap.